anymore. Can you purify me? Will you get out of my head and into my stomach? Purify me! Purify me!
A little bit about this book. You've been to the Middle East.
Right.
I haven't read the book, but you know, it has like a Middle Eastern kind of flavor, but there's also Dayton is in it. So
Yeah.
tell me about the book, what it's inspired.
I went over to the Middle East. I had worked on programs for Saudi Arabia in the past, and so that was basically a ticket to go over and work there. And
What kind of programs?
military programs, Abrams tanks, Army tanks for the Saudi military, and so while I was over there, I was in these 5-star hotels, and I was secluded from the environment, or outside the skirts of the city. And I would go to work every day, and then I get picked up, taxi, special ride back to my exclusive hotel. Well, I was supposed to be in the secure compound. That fell through, and most plans the Saudis do fall through. So I was getting disgusted with it because I felt secluded from everything. And on weekends, I would go down to the heart of the city called Bata. It's an ethnic neighborhood. It's got different enclaves, kind of like you're in New York City. Pakistani, Afghani, Filipino. And in some ways, since I grew up in New York City, I felt at home there in a way. It was funny, but it just appealed to me, and I would walk around and I'd enjoy it. On the weekends, you know, they had these open-air marketplaces that stretched for miles. Now, I'm not exaggerating. They went for miles, as far as the eye could see in all directions. So I would go there and spend the whole weekend, you know, go back at night and come back next day. And I said, well, I like going down there so much. Why don't I live there? And what I did was I found some cheap hotel places to stay at, and I basically integrated among the people. I started to dress like an Arab. I had a long beard. I looked like I was Muslim and Arabic. And people would ask me, like, what are you doing here? I mean, the first thing people ask you there is, where are you from and what are you doing here? As a result of it, I got to see the culture and the people up close in front. And unfortunately, most tales you hear from the Middle East these days are all about the bombings and it's an us against them mentality, attitude. That the military goes out and patrols and they find these terrorist groups and they shoot up and kill them. They're fighting each other and all that. Well, I wasn't in that category. I was among them, if you will, and most of the people I met were very nice people. I mean, they, for the most part, they were common, everyday people with the same concerns that we have, essentially. In King of Bata, you get the Eastern perspective, okay? You basically get a Muslim viewpoint of what's going on in the world, okay? And what the religions are and how they signify, what's the evolution of religion. I mean, the argument is that Islam is the last of all the great religions, so shouldn't it be the final path to God? Well, in this Tales from the East, Return of Ivanhoe, it discusses more of the Christian Islam question. Where does Christianity lie in this? What is Islam really trying to say? And also goes further into the Palestinian-Israeli issue. And of course that affects everybody in this country because so much of our money and effort, time and effort is involved in that over in the Middle East. So it's important that we, as a people, understand what really is going on over there. That book has 2 stories in it. The first one is more of a general discussion. The second one, I take back Toilet, which is, first one is Return of Ivanhoe. Second one is Toilet Genie Unflushed. Well, the second one, I have fun with some Arabic superstitions. And I bring them back. And I try and set up a spoof for 2012. It's a horror comedy. And it's based in Dayton, Ohio. and some other small cities I've been in. And what I did was I took pictures of some of the Halloween festivals and peoples in costumes, and I put them in the storyline, and I built up a story among that. And it's just, again, a spoof on 2012. I'm trying to get the Wright State Film Institute involved if they want to put together, like I could write a screenplay and they could have like a short film down here, kind of highlighting the Oregon district. I've tried a couple times already to get them involved. I've yet to hear any affirmative pursuit of this. But what I found was there are certain Arabic superstitions over there that parallel what you hear from Eastern Europe, like Dracula and vampires, werewolves. Well, the Arabic superstitions are parallel to that. But they come off humorous at first, but when you check the Bible, there's actual consistency between what the superstitions say and what ancient Hebrew demonology said in the Bible. So it's kind of a little scary at first because when you see that correlation.
Who's gonna want to read this book? Readers of political, cultural.
Well, anybody that has a political interest in what's going on in the world, anybody that wants to understand what the major religions are and why are there so many religions. I try to explain that in both books, and I focus more on Christianity versus Islam in the second book. Anybody that wants to really understand what's going on in the Middle East the last 1,000 years, I give that historical background. Not too many people have done that. And I found certain patterns that we're dealing with today, that a lot of what we are up against today is the cause of what happened 100 years ago, 50 to 100 years ago. And it's a leftover of that.
You know I pulled you over. Because you're a Reuben.
Now, where the tying to Dayton, Ohio comes from, well, I was living here at the time officially, and I went over there because the jobs were scarce here, even for the military, even Wright-Patterson. There was few and far between assignments. So I had the opportunity to go over there and work. When I came back here on vacation, I found out that when I had left, everybody was praising Obama, that he was going to be the next Messiah, if you will. He was going to create all these new opportunities and everything. Well, a year later, I come back, everybody's cursing Obama and his health care and everything, Obamacare, and everybody had turned against him in the populace, it seemed. His ratings were very low. The unemployment was getting higher. I had several Marines living in my apartment complex who had gotten laid off at some local jobs. And they were signing up to go back for another tour overseas in Afghanistan. And that's all they could do, get jobs as, right? And it showed the demise that Dayton was going through, that there's not a lot of opportunity here. And it was kind of depressing in a way. And what I saw in the Middle East was that people, for the most part, were happy on a daily basis because they placed everything in God's hands. I mean, if you live to see tomorrow and work the day and what day went by okay and you survived, it was God's will. And everything over there is the will of God. But here, the people's attitudes is, well, we control everything. It's our manifesto to do this, our destiny, and we are in control of everything. And you realize the attitude over there was a lot different, that's not the case. So they were more, yeah, they were more appeased, I mean, at ease with the general attitude of just living and getting by on a daily basis. For the most part, their attitude was more complacent than what I saw here. And when I went back there, I was actually happier to go back there and be there than I was here, because it was like there was all this pessimism developing here, and people's outlooks were down and everything. And everybody's criticizing Obama and when I went back there, it was just seemed more upbeat. I felt more at home. I'd gotten acclimated to the people there and the customs, the climate and everything.
So how does Dayton, does it actually appear in the book?
It's mentioned in some of the chapters where I discussed that.
The difference in kind of like the social climate.
The social climate, the opportunities, what is the country going through overall. I mean, you see the general climate of the country here in Dayton and other small cities throughout the United States, how they're affected, because they're the first to go or be, if the general economy starts to go, smaller cities see it first, are affected in most cases. The manufacturing center here, the demise of that, you see that a lot of jobs have shifted overseas. Over there in the Middle East, they protect their jobs, their people. They don't allow that. It's a very closed environment. You should see how the money's wasted over there. I mean, it's a joke for them. They purposely waste the money because they know they're going to get more from the United States the next year. So there's no urgency to get anything done over there. And they take us for granted. But the general populace looks upon it and says, why are you over here to begin with? Why are you in Afghanistan? I mean, you got the bin Laden, the cruise missiles. You could have taken these guys out, special ops and drones and everything. Why do you have to send in a standing army and all that? And like Israel, big thing over there among the Muslim population is our staunch support of Israel and neglecting the Palestinian issues. And that we seem to always take the side of Israel. And we don't criticize them. And how much of the Israeli lobby runs this country, that's a concern over there. But the general populace feeling, and I got this by masquerading as a New Zealander, because I'd ask people, well, what do you think about the United States and Obama? They seem to be hitting hard times lately. And people would come out front and talk to me, but if they knew I was an American, they wouldn't say the things they did. But they said, what do you expect? The U.S. is sticking their nose everywhere. And they're bound to fall like the British Empire, essentially. We're following the same pattern. So that is the general feeling over there.
So then he said it's not going to cut the mustard.
Really?
You know, and that was that.
Let's try a little test. What do you see here?
It's a sandwich. It's a sandwich. It's a sandwich.
I'm sensing a pattern here.